You're listening to Turi Writer's She Said What podcast. I'm Turi, along with Marcy Persky. In this installment, those people you dated long ago and you can't quite remember, except when you think you've just run into one again. Also, Marcy's pet cemetery is getting rather full, and looking up the strange thing you noticed about a rock and roll celebrity. You are so impatient. Good grief. I
have places to go and things to do.
Yeah, up there on the mountain with nothing going on at all.
I have to go to my couch and watch TV. That's why.
It happens that just last week, I was invited to be a guest on the Mark Thompson show with Kim McAllister hosting. And so I was poking around to see the old podcasts. I like Mark Thompson. I like his show. I'm trying to remember. No, it wasn't him. There are all these guys in the past who were TV guys that friends of mine would try to fix me up with. Mark was not one of them, but the TV guys were the worst because they were always super snappy dressers, and I'm a super sloppy eater. And I remember one time I dumped my red wine on the guy's white shirt, and I could just see him doing a mental calculation of his dry cleaning bill. And I just thought, F these TV people. I don't ever want to have anything to do with them again. That's a digression. So I go to look at the back catalog of Mark Thompson show podcasts, in part to make sure that he was not one of the people that I had dumped a glass of red wine on at a dinner decades before. They did podcasts with Chuck Negron of Three Dog Night, which was a band I dearly loved in the 70s. Like, they were pure pop with just enough rock and roll.
Jeremiah was a bulldog.
Well,
you weren't a bulldog in this house.
You weren't living in Chicago at that time, but that was
I was in Michigan.
That was the beginning of walks for things, walks for hunger, walks for, and like any other fundraising trend. At the beginning, it's huge, and then after a while, it's just somebody you have to hide from in the hallway of your office because their kid is walking for some cause. We've talked about this, the charitable attack. Please give me money. I am swimming in the ocean to help the mollusks, that crap.
Well, I'm going to say right now, please give me money just because I want some.
That would be more acceptable to me at this juncture. But I do remember Three Dog Night there were two top 40 stations in Chicago. I ended up working for one of them many years later, but we all were walking with our little AM radios blasting out Joy to the World. That was the theme of the walk to end hunger. And I will say this, as a kid from a very privileged suburb, I saw parts of the suburb that I'd never seen before. We walked along Sheridan Road, which in the suburbs goes right along the lakefront. A lot of those houses are gone now, and where they once stood, they built 6 mansions instead of just one mansion with a whole bunch of acreage. But I just remember there was a bazillionaire named W. Clement Stone.
Oh, I know him. Or I don't know him. I wish I knew him, but I know of him.
He had one of the biggest mansions on the lake. And I just remember thinking all the excuses I could think of to get into that house. And I started singing, oh, my darling, oh, my darling, oh, my darling, Clement Stone, would you buy some Girl Scout cookies? Oh, my darling, Clement Stone, can I come and use your bathroom? And eventually I had enough people singing that we drowned out Joy to the World. But that wasn't even the point of this diversion. This digression was because Chuck Negron of Three Dog Night was interviewed some months back on the Mark Thompson podcast. And of course, like many of these aged rockers, he begins by talking about his recovery. But I'm looking at his face and I'm going, what did he blow his nose off with cocaine? His nose looks fake. What has happened to his nose? So, seeing as we all get instant gratification even about other people's most intimate life events on the internet, What would you
Did you
Google?
Google his
What
nose?
what would what would you Google in that moment?
Chuck Grown's nose.
Well, I decided I would cast a wider net, and I Googled Chuck Negron prosthetic because
Ah,
it really looked like a fake nose. And I know they make fake noses because when I was working on the air in LA, I got what I found out later was the required sinus infection of all people who work with their voices and live in LA. But I didn't know that at the time. So I'm sitting in the office of a very fancy ear, nose, and throat person. And I about lost my lunch because I don't have a problem looking or being near or having prosthetics of various kinds around me. I can take a deep breath and try not to imagine the injury that resulted in this adaptation. But there's something about people with a complete hole in their face where their nose used to be that is
that's,
off-putting. And
that's why Groucho Marx glasses were invented.
well,
With the nose and the mustache and the big
funny
glasses.
you should mention that. So,
Did you have one in your purse and you
No,
handed it to
no.
that person?
oh God, how classless that would have been. Some people were wearing prosthetic noses. Some. One person was not. But Chuck Negron has something else going on. He does not have a prosthetic nose. What he has is, people who have oxygen, they carry it around in a little container and it goes in
Yeah.
a tube up their nose. He has COPD and emphysema and God knows what all he smoked and did to his lungs. He's got special glasses that stick the oxygen tube up his nose. Are you puking?
Okay.
Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm not laughing because
Yes,
I,
you are.
I need those. I
you're
may need those
laughing.
glasses
We're laughing.
because it's weird. How come everyone else doesn't have those?
They don't.
Because they can't afford them.
They don't need to stand in front of crowds and sing and look like a slightly aged 70s rock star.
So what does it do? Blow his nose up like a helium balloon, or
It does what people on oxygen have from their oxygen tanks. It shoves a little extra oxygen into his nostrils when he breathes so that he gets enough air, even though.
now I'm going to be staring at people closely. I live at 7,000 feet, and you see a lot of people carrying around the little oxygen packs on their backs
Why don't they just move down the hill?
because it's 115 degrees down there. That's why.
I'd move to Alaska before I'd
Yeah.
walk around with an oxygen pack on my back just because I'm up on a mountain.
Well, the air is clear. There's no pollution up
There's
here.
not enough of it.
Zero zap. None.
Not enough air, though.
If you
Not-
want to,
not
if you want to
enough.
live pollution free and have snow in September, move up to the mountain.
I don't think that you should have to choose between oxygen and having clean air. I think you should be able to have both things.
Well, good luck with that.
You may end
But-
up with the Chuck Negron glasses.
It sounds kind of fun.
But I'm curious. I mean, the oxygen can't just come out of nowhere. So where's the bottle in his boot? Where's the rest of it?
His pocket. It comes up his shirt. It's skin toned. It goes around the back of his neck, then through his long gray hair, right down the middle, and into his glasses. That's my design, my own
Your
personal
own
design.
personal Shark Tank design. It is. It's
Yeah.
like something somebody did on Shark Tank. I personally finally got to see Three Dog Night when I lived in San Francisco. And I was very disappointed because at that point there were just 2 out of 3 dogs.
I saw them at Ravinia,
Yeah.
just outside of Chicago. Yeah.
Were there 3 dogs or fewer than 3 dogs?
Oh, there were 3, I think.
Speaking of dogs, you've had a loss. I'm sorry. Very sorry.
Another one.
Yeah, you're down to what?
We're down to one.
One dog?
The little bulldog.
Ellie?
It's the queen of the house. She's been like stuck to me like glue. Minion, we had for 14 years. This is the first podcast I've done without him. He was always on the floor right next to me.
this is an opportunity for me to make a general apology. Many years ago, before I had dogs or understood anything about them, I made fun of people who said that dogs were as important as their children and members of their family, and who went kind of off the deep end at the loss. And now that I have had a dog and lost a dog, I have more sympathy and empathy. But there was a time when I just thought, this is weird, these people going into deep mourning over a dog. And so I now need to apologize, because this is one of those things like children, where
Yep.
I was very, very, very intolerant of people's children in restaurants, and I still am intolerant of people's children in restaurants. But I understand how it can happen now. I do. And all of the judgment I had about things like people letting their kids watch video on car trips instead of looking at the scenery, that went out the minivan window. And my rule about how all my children were going to have natural product toys and not a bunch of plastic, that goes out the window. The first time a kid gets hit in the head with a beautifully handcrafted wooden toy, everything goes out the window, basically. And you just owe all your friends who had kids and pets before you one enormous apology.
Yep.
It does change. People said, when you had children, you'll understand. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Or when you have a dog, you'll understand. And now.
Yeah, 14 years is a long time.
Yes, it is.
Minion failed dog school twice. And they said, we will take a picture of him in this graduation hat, but you can't bring him back ever again. And so every year, the big joke in our house was, next year, he's going to be a really good dog.
He was kind of the Marlboro man of dogs.
Yes.
He rode off into the sunset in his own way.
And Belly is happy to be the only dog, and she's actually been perfect. Absolutely perfect. Like listening to everything we say, and hasn't peed in the house once. Maybe she just wanted to be the only child.
Maybe she wants to be sure nobody's going to come to the house and make her never get up again.
Well, she had no
I'll be good. Then that doctor won't come back to the house. Yeah.
The doctor was lovely. And Frankie brought home a mini excavator from work.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Apparently, you cannot dig a hole, big dog-size hole, without a huge piece of construction equipment.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, Molly's dog, Beaver, had a heart attack. This was like maybe 5 years ago on Thanksgiving Eve. And it was winter up here, like hardcore winter. And Frankie and Molly spent 3 days trying to dig a hole for Beaver. And so Frankie said he's never going through that again. So we actually, you're going to love this. We actually buried Minion along with 2 cats that have been in the freezer for months.
We have talked about those cats, yes.
Yes. 2 freezer cats and 3 ash urns. So it was kind of a mass grave.
Oh, my God.
And then he dug another one.
It's like a war crime out there. Like some kind of army came through.
He dug a few more just in case.
For the future?
He said he didn't know how long goats live. And I said, oh, you still have a good 17 years with both of them.
Well, your daughter will make a swimming pool out of them or something.
Oh, no, she won't. Not that back there. We call it the pet cemetery, and you don't want to go back there unless you have to. Yeah, Frankie still has the whole Beaver debacle fresh in his mind. Molly, our oldest daughter, is busy in Denver when she's not working, making 7 tombstones.
7? Oh, boy.
Yeah, so it'll keep her busy for a while. She'll have to drive next time she visits because she's going to have a suitcase full of big rocks.
Well, all I know is don't send them like I sent that measuring thing so that 95 years later it can be postage due at your post office.
I could have gone to the... You could have sent me $1 and I go to the dollar store and spent 97 cents.
You would have been better off. It's true. I admit it. I
cherish it.
True.
I cherish it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to the Turi Writers She Said What podcast. Since you've made it to the end, you might want to know that my book, She Said What? A Life on the Air, is not only available in print, but now also in complete audiobook form, narrated by me and available on Audible.